Hi, I'm Dennis Hansen, the designer, builder, and tester for Woody Logic surfboards. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to build a bottom panel for your wood surfboard and talk about the different woods that you can use to make your board. On my early boards, I used pine and sometimes mixed it with cedar, and that worked really well for a while. Worked good on the longboards, and they were actually surfable. Then I started to use balsa and cedar, and that made the boards a little bit lighter. It was nice to work with the balsa. Finally, I started incorporating paulownia and balsa, and I found that is the best combination for me. I wanted to talk about making the wood for your top and bottom panels. And sometimes I do it all at the same time. Sometimes I just do the bottom panel strips. But what I always started out with was I would go and I would get the big box store. I'd get either cedar or pine, 2x4, and then I would rip it so that I would have nice 1/4 inch thick, 1.5 inch wide strips. And what that looks like, it's like this. Now, usually I would run them through my surface planer just to make sure I got them exactly 1/4 inch thick, and I would check them with my calipers. Makes it a lot easier. Now I got to admit, ripping, I used to buy 10-foot 2x4s, and ripping those can be a challenge, but it can be done. Since then, I've kind of gone an easier way. I buy pre-milled wood, and I'm going to get into that in a minute. But I do want to show you the layout for how we're going to set up to make our bottom panel. You might remember we made the template of our original copy board on the contractor's paper, and you can see there's the outline of it. This is the center line I snapped, and what I've done is I put 2 lines parallel to the center line, 4 inches out, and those are going to be for my rib, for the ribs for the stringers that go in those spots. So this will help you out a lot if you do this first off. Alright, just so you can get an idea how that's going to work. So you can see I've got my rib and where the notches are, where the stringers are going to go. And so that gives me an idea where I want to put my paulownia, because those, I'm going to run paulownia here, balsa and paulownia here and here, and balsa be in the rest of the board. And I do that because those stringers carry a lot of extra pressure, and I want those to be on something that's very stable. So the paulownia is a much better wood to use for something like that. And when it's all tied together, after it all gets wrapped with fiberglass, it really makes for a strong unit. What I like to do is figure out where my pieces of wood are going to go, and I label them. This is all before I think about even gluing anything. I want to lay it out, make sure that everything's going to be exactly where it should be. So I'm just going to run through that process. It's not real difficult. You want to just make sure you're covering the outside of the template that you drew. Now all my pieces are laid out. This is what the bottom panel is going to consist of. All these boards are going to get glued together. 3 pieces of paulownia, lots of pieces of balsa. That's the way you keep it light. I'm ready to start putting my bottom panel together. There's a couple things I do first. I like to put down a layer of wax paper between the contractor's paper and the wood. And the reason for that is because I know that glue is going to seep down between the pieces of wood. I don't really want it to get on my pattern. I don't want it to stick. So I found wax paper is a pretty good way to do it. The other thing is I use Sigbond glue. Love this glue. It's used by modelers that build wooden model airplanes, and it's easy to sand, has a really good finish. It's very waterproof, fuel proof. It sands real smooth. It's a real creamy texture, so it's nice to work with this. The other thing is I get a bucket and a grout sponge, because what I'm going to do is when you get to the joints, those long joints, you want to make sure you get the glue off the top. For the way I do it is the finished side is going to be on the top. And you'll see this when the whole thing gets done and dried out and I flip it over, I'll pull the wax paper off. That side's not too pretty, that's going on the inside of the board. The top is going to be the finished side, which is going to be the bottom of the board. So it just works out a lot better that way. I've been doing it this way for quite a while, and it works for me. I know there's a lot of other ways to do it. I've heard of people using tape and all kinds of other crazy things. Well, I just do it this way because it's simple. So I'm going to run through it. I don't use any clamps. I use, because the balsa and the paulownia, it's not springy. It's not like I got to fight it. So I just use some weight, scrap wood, a little angled aluminum, keep it shoved all up tight against my brace here, and you'll see how it goes. I have glued up half of the panel, and I'm going to let it dry overnight. I'll come back tomorrow and glue the other half. My bottom panel is dried, so I'm going to flip it over, see what we got, strip off the wax paper. That's how the panel turned out. This is looking at the underside that had the wax paper against it. Actually, it turned out pretty good. Just see some glue seams, but that'd be on the inside of the board, so it's not that big of a deal. It's nice and flat, and that's what I want. Makes a huge difference if you use the right kind of wood. So the bottom panel's done. My next step's going to be build the cradle, and I'll be doing that next week. So join me at that time, and thanks for watching.